Hey everyone, welcome to the third and final video of our Econsole training video. This is where we're going to look at the study list and all the post-processing options that we have available. Here in the middle we can see we've got our fluffy patient that we did in the earlier two videos, and we can see some thumbnails on the bottom of those images that we took. I like to describe this area as like a manila folder. The name of the folder is the fluffy, and if you open the folder, each page will contain a new study. So down the bottom here that I'm highlighting at the moment, that's going to be where you keep an archive of all the studies you've done on that particular patient. In this instance, I've only got the one. Let's say 3 or 4 months down the track, we do another study on Fluffy. That will then appear underneath that study. Now, if we want to actually take a new study on an existing patient that's already in the system, all we need to do is keep the same ID number. So to do that, we can see this patient here is ID number is 123. So when we create a new study, if we use the same ID number, in this instance 123, as soon as I put that last digit in, the program will detect its already existing patient and pre-fill out the details that you had. I'll put 3 in now, and we can see Fluffy has now populated into our ad exam. This will ensure we're creating a new study for an existing patient, which will then ultimately, once we finish, enter down here in our folder of studies. Now we're going to move over to the right hand side. We've got 10 buttons on the right. We won't use all of them though. So the first button here is the open button. So every button will show you what they are if you just leave your mouse hovering over it. The first one is open image. So you can either click on that, or you can just double click on the patient in the study list. That'll also take you to review mode. Now the first thing I'm going to point out in review mode, because it does look identical to the X-ray screen, up the top of your toolbar, we've got a blue icon now saying review. What that means is we're in review mode, not in X-ray mode. We can still use all the same toolbar features, but now we can also use the split screen feature if we wanted to. And to use that, you select on which tile that you want to load it in, and then you click on the image on the right. That will populate in to your split screen. Other than that, all the buttons and functions in the toolbar are exactly the same. So if you want to make an edit, click on the save button, and that will save your edit in review mode. You will not be able to take a new X-ray though in review mode. So if you click on the top species icon to add a new shot, it actually won't let you add anything. You can see I'm double clicking DP, nothing's being added. And if you push the hand switch, no new X-ray will appear because you cannot take X-rays in review mode. But saying that, let's say we've got a scenario where you've taken some X-rays on Fluffy at 12 o'clock, but then you realize at 2 o'clock you might be missing a shot or you want to take another shot. We can still open up this study back into X-ray mode. So we click on finish down here to reopen it back up into X-ray mode. And I just want to mention that this is not creating a new study. This is designed to add another shot to an existing study, kind of like on the same day. If it's a different study, we recommend using that add new patient thing that we showed before. We use the same ID number. To reopen it up into X-ray mode though, it's the top right button, the reshoot button. Click on that. It'll open back up into X-ray mode. We can see it's busy at the moment. Surely that'll change to ready.
Ready.
And now we're ready to take another shot. So if you wanted another abdomen lateral, just leave it highlighted, take your X-ray, and the program will automatically add it for you. If you want a different projection, like we went through the second video, up in the species, and we can add it there. These images will attach to the current study. So once again, only really recommended if you're doing it in the same study on the same day, or even the next day. Say 6 months down the track, I would recommend using the new study feature. When you finish, click on the finish button. It'll take you back to this screen. So we'll go button at a time. The next button down is the merge button. So where this button would be useful is if you have two studies of the same patient with different ID numbers that you want to merge together. So in this instance, I've got two patients in the study list. We've got 123 on the left, and we've got DLC test on the right. If I wanted to merge these together, I would use the arrows down the bottom. The right arrow that I'm highlighting here will actually delete the patient ID 123, but move all three images into the DLC test study. If I were to use the left arrow, it'll delete the DLC test study and move its 2 images into the 123 study. When you finish, you click on close, and that will merge those 2 studies together. The next button across is the export button. So if we click on that, the program has 4 ways it can export: drive, print, CD, and email. Now, print and CD will not be used. No one really has a Dicom printer anymore, and the computers generally don't have CD drives anymore. So those 2 won't be used. Drive and email will be the only 2 we look at today. Drive is where we're going to export locally to the computer. And to do that, we click on the Select Drive button, and it'll open up your C drive. If you have multiple drives like a D drive or an E drive, it will bring up a menu to choose which drive. Once you select your drive, you want to double click into the folder you want to export it to. So let's say, for example, I want to export it to the DLC folder in the C drive. I'm going to double click on the DLC folder, and at the top here, we can see it's got C drive OS, which is your C drive of your computer, and it's got DLC, which means we're in the DLC subfolder. And then from here, all we need to do is choose the file format. Now, if you want to create a new folder, you can right-click in the empty space and go make a new folder. Or if you've already got an existing folder, once again, you just double-click it and take you there. So in this, we're going to choose the JPEG because we want to export it into an image. Out of these file formats, you're not going to really use BMP, PNG, or TIFF, so just ignore them. If you want it in a Windows format, just a normal image format that can be used on any platform, you want to click on the JPG button. Also emailable. DCM is if you want to export it into a DICOM file. Now, DICOM files are quite big, so they can't be emailed. So with them, you'll need to either upload to a Dropbox or a OneDrive or a Google Drive to send to someone, or you can do the old-fashioned way and plug in a USB stick, copy it to a USB, and then post it to your specialist. For this purpose, we're going to click on the JPG, and we're going to click on the OK button. This will now export into a folder called 123_fluffy. Now, the folder name is basically it's patient ID _ patient name. So Fluffy had a patient ID of 123, which is why it's called 123. That's how you export to your local drive. Now, to check that, I'm going to click the cancel button here. Now, as we can see, Econsole is a full screen program, so I don't want to close the program yet. I just want to minimize it so I can check my export. To do that, I'm going to press and hold the Windows button on the keyboard and push M for Mary. This will now minimize Econsole down to the bottom, which I can click on again to get straight back into it. So Windows and M for Mary will minimize it. And now I'm going to follow the folders back into my DLC folder. So we go C drive, DLC, and then we can see here, we've got 123_fluffy, and inside there are our 3 images that we exported into JPG files. So from here, you can either upload them to your Google Drives, USBs, or whatever you want to do with them. If you want to get back to Econsole, just clicking on that. We'll go back into the export though, because the last one I want to show you was the email. So the email function is quite powerful, works quite well. However, it is limited to a Gmail account. So if you have a Gmail account, we can certainly add that to this program and you can email directly. If you don't, then obviously you can create one and then we can go from there. We can add it. This one's a bit trickier. There's a lot of behind the scenes configuration that's needed. So I won't exactly go through this one now, but if you guys want to go ahead with a Gmail account and use the email function, just reach out to us here at the service team. We'll log in. We'll help you set it up. In a nutshell though, you're just putting what email you want to send it to, a subject, a body, and then you're pressing the send button. Once again, we'll go into email a bit more in depth if you decide to want to try it, and then we'll log on, we'll get it activated with you, and then we'll run through it. The next 2 buttons are your edit and delete button. Now these buttons will, so for example, if we click on the edit button, this will allow us to change the ID, the pet name, the owner, any of those details in your study list. Now, if you want to completely delete your study or your patient file, click on the trash can. It will say, are you sure you want to delete it? Click on OK. It will completely delete your patient file. Now, if you accidentally delete it, there is a way to recover it, which I'll show you at the end of this video. The next 3 buttons, we're not going to go over today in the training because you're not going to use them, so just ignore them. However, the last button is quite important. So if you remember back to video 2, where I said if you take the shot and it's on the wrong projection, just to leave it, remember it, and we can change it later in the study list. This is the button that we're going to use. So this is where, let's say for example, you had skull highlighted, but you took a picture of the abdomen instead. We can actually use this button to change that projection back to what it's supposed to be. So let's say for example, abdomen lateral 2. So if we select the one that we want to change, let's say this one was supposed to be a tail. We select it, and it's just a matter of choosing the part in the anatomy that you want it to change to. So we can already see the third one has changed to tail. This is why I said in the second video, if you make that mistake, no need to retake it, less radiation for you guys and the clients. Just leave it, jump into this section later on, make the change, and it'll change to the right projection for you. Click on OK to save it, and it will change it. While you're in here, you can also change some of these details if you like. Click on OK. They'll start making the changes. It'll reopen the study back into review mode. And then we can see that last one has now successfully changed to tail, which is the right projection name. Let's click on finish. It'll take us back to our study list. Last couple of things we're going to go through. In the configuration down the very bottom right hand corner, this will allow you to make some changes to the software. This is not something that we usually recommend for a lot of people to start messing with. However, there is a couple of things in here that I think you should have a look at. And the first one being under image. If we click on image and then overlay, this will allow you to customize your overlay. So the overlay is that white writing that appears over your x-rays when you take them. We've got your top left all the way to the bottom right. So if you want to add stuff to your overlay, you choose where you want to add it to, click on the plus sign, and the program will tell you what's available to select from. The ones in blue have already been selected in a previous area. So if you want to add acquisition time, for example, we click on that, click on OK, and we can see it's added to our bottom right now. The other thing I was going to mention in the configuration that I recommend is if you accidentally deleted your study, right down the bottom we've got a recycle bin. And this is where you can restore deleted studies. Just tick the ones that you want to restore, click on the restore button, and it'll bring it back into your study list. So if you do delete it, it's never gone permanently. If you then empty the recycle bin, there is a way we can restore it. Just give us a call or email, and we'll log in and get that restored for you. The other thing is, if you've got a PACS server that you're sending to as well, when you finish a study, it'll automatically send to your PACS server for you. If for any reason you're not connected at that time, click on the send button, and that will send the study across to your PACS. When you're done, you click on the log out button, click on OK. That will actually close down the software for you completely. That's a bit different to minimizing. That's if you want to shut it out completely. And that pretty much concludes everything there is to know about the study list, and also concludes the Econsole tutorial. When you're at this screen, we do recommend turning your computer off overnight, just to avoid any electrical storms that might happen. We don't want any damage to the computer. To shut down your computer, click on the Windows button, that little circle power button, and then the shutdown button. That will turn off your computer for you. That wraps it all up. Hope you found all 3 videos helpful. If you have any further questions after this, feel free to email us at support@dlc.com.au, or alternatively, if you want, you can give us a call on that number, and we can certainly log in and give you some assistance with whatever you need.